Welcome back to ABC 24 This Week. I'm Richard Ransom. As I like to say, we talk about the big stories here, and one of the biggest stories that we had in the last couple of weeks has been the Grand Hyatt hotel project for downtown, a huge mega hotel that would have been a convention center type hotel, and there you see some renderings of what it would look like. And we are lucky enough to have the developer of this project, Chance Carlisle, with us. A beautiful building, Chance, and I know it breaks your heart that right now that project is dead. And it's all because of a disagreement, I guess, with the mayor about how much the public should be responsible for funding for this project. What do you think is the biggest misconception that maybe the public has as you read look at all the articles and stories that have been written about the demise of this project?
Great. And thanks for having me on this
Appreciate
morning.
you being here.
Richard, I'm not sure exactly what the biggest misconception can be. I know that everywhere I go, we talk about the need for a convention center hotel. And so we look at the $200 million investment we made in the Renaissance Center. And for now, the fourth time, the city's tried to deliver convention center, hotel, or campus, and the Grand was going to fill that need. We tried with Lowe's, Townhouse, there was Bob Swirling before that. And each time it comes down to basically what type of private-public partnership can we have. And in this case, we had a deal that started with an incentive package that was roughly $84 million. And over time, that package became less and less valuable. It went from 84 to 65 to 50, and now is hovering somewhere around $45 million. And as it got less, and as the project basically stayed on target and on schedule to be delivered, it just wasn't enough to go forward.
Okay. Otis?
Yeah, Chance, I have to ask you about, and Richard mentioned this at the top of the show, about the very public feud you've had with Mayor Strickland. And I need to ask you about the comment that he made that I think every news organization in town reported when he said city government cannot be the ATM for developers. And he also took another kind of dig at you by saying that while the city government was trying to negotiate this deal, you were away somewhere on spring break in Colorado. I have to ask you, for the public's sake here, your response to those two things.
Yeah, first, I know that Mayor Strickland cares deeply about the city, as do I as a native Memphian. And I think this is such a raw issue because it's so important. For me, I keep asking myself, what do we have to do as Memphians to get richer together? And so, when I look at, the investments that we have to make in the city, I'd much rather have tourists coming and spending money here than raising property taxes. Mm-hmm. And so when we get into the, how do we invest? And by the way, we had minority investors from literally every neighborhood with me. So it wasn't just, a guy that looks like me making a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. And that was at the request of the Memphis City Council. One that I actually didn't think we would be able to pull off originally. And so we started with the goal of 2.5%. We never said no to anybody, and we ended up getting up to about 18%. Which was literally millions of dollars of local black Memphians coming in and relationships that I got to meet. So I'm protecting not just them and my family on this, but also looking at how are we going to create the economic environment to where we're providing jobs, we're funding police and fire, we're fixing potholes, and economic development has to be a strategic priority. Now, I've got broad shoulders, and I'm not mad at Mayor Strickland for his comments. I think we have to be extremely careful, though, not to make investors the enemy. Because when we do that, we alienate we split ourselves in Memphis, but it sends a terrible signal to everyone outside the city. And we have to attract capital here to grow.
But let me just ask you very briefly a follow-up. It seems to me, from what I read, there was only a $5 million difference here. Yeah. Couldn't you have found that money somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that may be the biggest misconception, actually. So, I'm a proud parent. I've got an 8-week-old at home, well, and I also have an 8-year-old. And kids they like to watch TV. So my daughter comes to me and she says, "Hey, Dad, can I have 5 more minutes?" Sure. Well, can I have 5 more minutes? Sure. Third time, fourth time, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. You finally got to say, "Oh, how much TV have you watched?"
Yeah.
All right, and Mom's going to jump all over me if I give you another 5 minutes. Yeah. And so it's not that it was just 5 million. It was 84 to 55 to 41. So we were actually putting up $46 million into the city-owned convention center on site that if we ever bought, we would have to buy back from the city at fair market value. So it's a city building. It was supposed to be financed mostly with public money. And it's really the only way that you're able to build these very large hotels is to have that meeting space adjacent to it on campus. So.
We've got just a couple minutes left. I want to ask you about the Dream Hotel. We're showing a picture of that right there. That is a project by another developer slated to go up above the Jolly Royal Furniture Store there at Main Street in Peabody. What are the prospects for a project like that? Do you see that as competition in terms of what you hope to do still, perhaps, at the Grand Hyatt, or?
Yeah, I'm an all of the above Memphian. And what does that mean? That means I hope Tom is able to build the hotel. I was a fan of Lowe's when they were here, and they hadn't officially terminated their project. We need about 2,000 more full-service hotel rooms in downtown. Now, our proposed hotel at the Grand would have given us a convention center campus of like 715 rooms. One more big property like that, and we'll be able to get the NBA All-Star game. You know, the big events that we have Kojic here this past week, and it's great to have them back. But I cannot tell you how much business wants to come to Memphis, and what we just have to turn them away.
Do you honestly think, though, that big hole in the ground, you hadn't started digging, but I don't believe for a second that project's never going to happen?
Look, I am a very optimistic guy. Look, we haven't figured it out yet. Things did get a little raw. But look, it has to happen because we need it. I mean, this is the way that we can grow out of our problems. There's a lot of issues that we have, but it's not going to be built putting public monies into more prisons, right? And so, you know, how we look at financing these things is the conversation that I want to have. And I think, you know, quite candidly, economic development must be a strategic priority of the next administration.
Well, I hope it happens. We're out of time, but we do appreciate you taking part in our conversation here today.
Yeah, we really do.
Maybe helping to explain, unedited,
right.
what it is, what your thoughts are about this project, and wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And thank you, Otis, as well, for being here. And thank you to you at home. We'll see you next week for ABC 24 This Week.